Good morning once again, and welcome to the third and final hour of the Live with the Renk show. Appreciate you tuning in. And you know what I appreciate? Dr. Ben Carson calling in even a little bit before time. Last week I interviewed Lieutenant Governor here in Michigan, Brian Kelly, and he was 5 minutes late. And I understand these things happen, so I'm very appreciative of that fact. We'll get back to what we were talking about before, obviously the tragedy, the insaneness that happened over in Kalamazoo. So anybody who was calling in or on hold or wanted to call in after this interview, we can certainly go back to that. But now I would like to warmly welcome a Michigander, even though he no longer lives in Michigan, a Detroiter, Dr. Ben Carson, who's running, as you all know, in the Republican primary race. Good morning, Dr. Carson, and again, thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning. It's delightful to be with you.
I wanted to ask you, and I do appreciate you calling in and talking to your fellow Michiganders. What is the vision you see for the United States as president or not?
My vision is a place that is of, for, and by the people, with the government there to serve the people and not the other way around. And a place that recognizes that there is such a thing as right and wrong versus just political expediency. And a place where we can give our children the same kind of dream that we had.
Right, which is slipping.
It's slipping very rapidly, and I don't think most people have any idea how rapidly it's slipping. You'll never hear a Washington politician, for instance, talk about the fiscal gap. But I'm not a politician, so I can talk about it. And that's the amount of unfunded liabilities that we owe. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all the governmental programs, governmental agencies, versus the amount of money we have coming back in from taxes and other revenue sources. The gap there now sits at over $200 trillion. It is a staggering amount, and it places us in great jeopardy. If somebody came along today and gave us a check for $19 trillion to pay off our national debt, people would be dancing in the street. We wouldn't even be close to being out of trouble.
And that's what I try to explain to people. Anyone, even with a bleeding heart or what have you, all these projects, all these programs, all these things you want done, at some point we won't be able to afford to do them without some drastic change.
No, they won't be. But here's the thing. Right now, we're still in that sweet spot where we can turn this around. We won't be there for much longer. And somehow people have got to wake up and understand what's going on. You know, it was our founders who said that our system and our freedom depended upon a well-informed and educated populace. He said if they ever become other than that, the nature of the country will change. Why? Because people would be easy to manipulate. And that's exactly what's going on today.
I have two questions now, and looking at them as I was formulate them kind of go together. So let me ask you them. I was going to ask you, what's the most important thing my listeners and the rest of the country needs to know, what's concerning what is happening to us today in the United States? And we touched on that with what you said. And then I wanted to ask you in a breakdown, what do you believe is the most pressing issue in the United States today? Is it the economy and the national security, or the social and moral breakdown of the country? And how would you tackle that issue?
Well, all the things that you just mentioned are critical. As far as the financial situation is concerned, we possess the most powerful economic engine the world has ever known, but we are not allowing it to function. What we have to do is get rid of all the burdensome regulations. Not all regulations, but the burdensome ones. We need to look at them with their cost versus their benefit, cost-benefit ratio. And if it doesn't make sense, then you jettison them. You know, for instance, the Clean Power Plan. The EPA has said if we implement every aspect of it, it will lower the Earth's temperature by 0.05 degrees Fahrenheit in 85 years. That's the benefit. The cost is billions of dollars and millions of jobs. That makes no sense, and we're doing lots of that, 81,000 pages of new regulations. So that's got to go, and we have to have a tax plan that makes sense and that is fair. And we've offered that, and I hope your readers will go to bencarson.com and read about it. Forbes said it's the best. Cato praises it. Wall Street Journal praises it. And it's a very fair program with a flat tax, and it doesn't provide an advantage for everybody. But it gives people the incentive to do things.
Right. On air with me is Republican presidential primary candidate Dr. Ben Carson. And why do you think in politics, you were in real life, in the real world before you entered into this, and in politics, why in Washington and quite frankly, sometimes in the states also, they never look at cost benefit? It's always, they only see the rosy side of what they think will happen.
Well, a lot of it has to do with special interest groups. Anything coming out of Washington that doesn't make sense, I can pretty much guarantee you there's a special interest group attached to it. And that's what's killing us. Now, that's why I have absolutely refused to take any money from special interest groups or from billionaires who want to control things. And anybody who does and who gets into that bed, I guarantee you we're going to be going down the same pathway that we've been going down.
Oh, it's like I tell people, other than the $5 donations, $10 here and there, people don't give money to politicians because they like them or because they, love their vision for the country, that type of thing. Now, we know the economy and national security that we touched on earlier are important for the short term. What do you see as the long-term issues I guess fiscally, yes, that can be long-term, but I guess...
Well, that's long-term, but also our security is long-term. We are not thinking proactively. Our electric grid, for instance, has not been hardened. It leaves us extraordinarily vulnerable to electromagnetic pulse, either from the sun or a nuclear explosion in our exo-atmosphere or from a cyber attack. Cyber warfare is going to be the new weapon of mass destruction. And a few weeks ago when President Obama said ISIS is not an existential threat to us, I don't think he's living in the real world, because the new warfare is going to be cyber warfare and dirty bombs attacking our grid. And if you do those things simultaneously, which they have capability of doing, what would happen to us? It would be worse than Hiroshima, I guarantee you. And we need to start thinking proactively. And then we need to defend ourselves. You look at our borders. I've been down there. I've talked to the sheriffs, and they tell me that there are people coming through there by the droves, including OTMs, what they call other than Mexicans. And they say a lot of them come from northern Africa and from the Middle East. They're not being screened. They're setting up terrorist cells in our country, and our government is doing precious little to stop them. And we could stop them. I absolutely know we could seal that border within a year and deal with our other borders as well if we had a will to do it. And the worst thing about it is all the drugs that are coming through. We have a heroin epidemic in this country. And it seems like the government doesn't care. They almost say, wow, yeah, get everybody high. And you hear people talking about, legalizing marijuana. I can tell you as a neuroscientist, many studies have shown that regular exposure of cannabis to a developing brain, which continues to develop into your late 20s, can have a profound effect on the IQ. And we already have enough people with low IQs. We don't need to be importing this stuff.
Why do there seem to be so many people with low IQs in Washington, D.C.? Because do they not, as you're telling me of these things, and many people who have common sense and understand this stuff agree with you. So the opposing view, do they not understand the danger that they're putting us in when they don't tackle these issues, or they just don't believe these issues to be important enough?
I think they live in an alternate universe where they just don't really want to invest any energy into thinking about what's going to happen to our children and our grandchildren.
It's just about the next election?
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all they care about, the next election. The system is so rotten. I thought it was rotten before, but now that I've gotten into it and seen what's there, I would turn and run away if I didn't care so much about the next generation.
I tell you what, Dr. Carson, that's exactly what I've been telling my listeners. I was business until about 8 years ago. I'm 51, going on 52. And my friends who knew me before say, "What is it like, politics and everything?" I said, "You think it's dirty? It's 100 times worse than
You're exactly right.
It is not dirty just in the what happens within the campaigns and what you experience and others experience, but also in the backroom deals and votes going to the floor where people already know how it's going to be. What do you think about my concern and something we were talking about this morning before you came on, and certainly because, I'm 20 miles from Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's tragedy that happened. I have a station and affiliate in Kalamazoo as well as Lansing, and my studios here in Battle Creek, Michigan. The social and moral breakdown of our country. Would you agree that that's happening, and why?
Oh, well, there's no question it's breaking down because we're allowing, quite frankly, the secular progressives to beat the people down who actually have the values and principles that made this into a great nation. And, it's not cool to say that you believe in God and you believe in right and wrong. That indicates that somehow you're intellectually impaired somehow. And, until the people who have traditional values that made this into a great nation are willing to stand up for those values, this is something that will continue. Our pillars of strength are our faith and our families. And those are the areas that we are allowing the secular progressives to denigrate. And we are suffering the consequences. And I make no bones about it. Other people in the political arena are sometimes a little timid to say that. But I can see clearly what the effect of all of this is. It's one of the reasons that I refuse to be a politician. Some people call me a politician. I say, nope, I'm not a politician. I never will become one. Because politicians do what is politically expedient, what will advance them, what will advance their cause. And I believe in doing what's right. And I think if you do what is right, in the long run, you come out much further ahead.
Yeah, it's like to what you just said here in Kalamazoo, there's people out there who I know, politicians who I know, are adamantly pro-abortion. Yet get out and talk about how life is so precious, talking about these insane murders that happened over the weekend.
Yeah,
and I think to myself, really, is life precious? Really. But one last thing. I only have you for a few more minutes. On air with me is Dr. Ben Carson. He's a Republican presidential primary candidate. Appreciate you calling in from Sin City, or around Sin City. I don't know if you're in Sin City or not.
I'm in Reno.
Oh, you're in Reno. You're in Little Sin City. I've been to both the Reno and it's nothing like the Vegas. What is unique about you, Dr. Carson, is where you grew up, Detroit, and how you grew up. So what is your advice for young people growing up in difficult circumstances who are struggling today to make their lives better for themselves? What did Ben do to rise out of the poverty, become the man you are today?
Well, the thing that made the big difference for me was my mother, who made us turn off the TV and read books. She didn't say what we had to read. So I started reading about people in all kind of different fields of great accomplishment. And I began to notice a pattern in their lives. I began to understand that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you. It's not the environment, and it's not anybody else. And once I understood that, I stopped listening to all the negativity around me and all the people who were saying, you can't do this, and the system's stacked against you, and there's this. I just didn't have time for that. I was too busy empowering myself by reading. And that's what I would say to young people today. Don't let somebody else define who you are. Don't let somebody else define your limitations. You live in a country that is still free, and hopefully it'll remain that way. And so you have the ability to program your computer, which is your brain, the way you want it to be programmed. And the more you know, the more opportunities you will have.
It's funny, I say to people, I can guarantee you one thing. If you don't work hard, you will lose. If you work hard, you'll have a chance. Nothing is promised anybody in life. But
absolutely.
Similar
and you don't have to limit yourself to any one particular area. I spent substantial time right there in your area, in Battle Creek. I was on the board of Kellogg for 18 years, and on the board of Costco. And doing a national scholarship program, and lots of things. You don't have to limit yourself to one particular area.
I appreciate you coming on air with us, Dr. Carson, and all the best of luck in your upcoming primaries.
A pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was Dr. Ben Carson, as you know, Republican primary candidate for president. What did you think? When he's actually given a time to elaborate on his thoughts. What do you think about his brand of, or not his brand, but his directness to wanting to address the issues and actually bring in cost-benefit analysis? Because that's what I've always said. Us on the right, me and many who I know on the right, are not against trying things, not against spending money to try things. But the difference between the two ideology is on the right, we want to see results. And if it doesn't, we want to ditch it. Most of us. And that's the ideology, what it's supposed to be. On the left, we can never ditch an issue that has a result, that has doesn't give the results we expected. They believe throwing more money at it is a way to fix it.